From the beginning of this, my goal has been to provide timely and accurate information to our residents, to our constituents, to our members of the media. This morning I shared with you arrest data received in my morning police briefing, which I later learned to be inaccurate. I have taken further steps to safeguard our ability to provide relevant and accurate information, and will ensure that those steps are taken in the first place and taken in the future. And I take full responsibility for that. Looking forward, we have work to do. Tonight, tomorrow, and a foreseeable way into the future. People have asked me this week, is the arrest of Officer Chauvin enough? People have asked me this week, is the public statements from our elected leaders enough? People have asked me this week, if all four of those officers get arrested and convicted, is that enough? I think they're asking me because they know that this is a movement that I'm rooted in. I think they're asking me because I've shared my own experience as maybe one of very relatively few elected leaders in the country who knows what it feels like to be pulled over for driving while black. Maybe they're asking me because they know that our administration has been rooted from the beginning in working with our police department and our police chief in ensuring that we are the model of relationships between police and community across the nation and across the world. When folks ask me if those measures are enough, my answer is all the same. There's no such thing as enough when it comes to protecting human life. There's no such thing as enough when it comes to preserving the relationship of trust and credibility that must flow between our police officers and our community members. There's no such thing as enough when it comes to ensuring our children that when you see someone in a badge and a uniform, that someone is here to help you in an emergency, in a crisis, or in any other situation. There's no such place as enough when it comes to pursuing justice for George Floyd and so many of the unarmed, unaggressive African-American men who we have demanded justice for. When we say there's no such place as enough, though, what that means is the responsibility is ours to act in a constructive manner, to act in an effective manner that will be effective at building forward for the future that we know that our children deserve. It's our responsibility to act in a way that will help to make a better world, will help to usher better relationships, will help to usher stronger bonds between our communities and the public servants that serve them, that protect and serve us. Over this week, I've had a chance to talk to leaders in our communities of color, faith leaders across our city and state, business owners, workers, employees, and no small amount of police officers. I can tell you that every single person I've talked to looks at that video of George Floyd having the life squeezed out of him. And from every officer to every CEO to every activist in my neighborhood, we all look at that and say, that's unacceptable. We have to do something to make a better world. My hope today and tomorrow is that our focus remains on that. My hope today and tomorrow is that our focus remains on telling the world that Mr. Floyd should still be alive today, on telling the world that those responsible for taking his life must be held accountable, all of them, not just one, but all four of them. And for telling the world that we as a city, we as a state, we as a society are redoubling our effort to ensure that we stop seeing these things happen. Unfortunately, events of this week have taken our focus away from those critical missions. Events of this week have distracted us have sought to exploit the death of Mr. Floyd for the purposes of further destroying the communities that have been most traumatized by his death. We will not accept that as normal. We will not receive that as acceptable. As I said earlier, we live in a world, we live in a city where we neither accept the death of unarmed African American men, the wrongful killing of unarmed African American men, nor do we accept the willful destruction of our neighborhoods. Those are not opposing goals. They're one and the same. This is a moment in which we get to rehearse our shared humanity. As I talk to our neighbors, to our residents, to our advocates and everyone else, I hear some people say, even in America, the accused get a right to fair process. That, don't rush to judgment to those officers too quickly. I hear them say, make sure that he has a chance to be, to have fair process. Don't be judge, jury, and executioner. Make sure he has a chance to hear his say. Every time I hear that, it reminds me that we're all in the same humanity. Because the other thing that I hear very loudly is a cry, a wish, a prayer, a demand for George Floyd, for Eric Garner, for Antoine Arbery, to have that same privilege. We're in this together. We have to know that we're in this together. We are committed to those dual missions of protecting the rights of those who peacefully protest to demonstrate their First Amendment rights. We saw that in action in a powerful way today. We are committed, just as committed, to ensuring the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for every resident in every single neighborhood of our community. And I look forward to demonstrating all of those commitments tonight, tomorrow, and into the future. We have work to do. And I know Mayor Fry knows, and I know Governor Walz knows, that inasmuch as we are doubling down today to address the how, the methods that people are using out in our communities this week, that we also must address the why, that we recognize that there's a legitimate why, that there is an understandable anger, that there's an understandable frustration, and that frustration and anger will continue until we meaningfully address the why. I am here with you in that fight. I know our governor, I know Mayor Fry are here with you in that fight. We must engage in this work in a way that will help us to build our neighborhoods, in a way that will help us to build our economy, in ways that will help us build the jobs in the neighborhoods, right in the communities that have been hardest hit by our pandemic, by our economic crisis, by the trauma of the video we saw this week, and yes, by the unrest that we've experienced across our state and across our country over the past days. Those of you who, like me, want to keep the focus on George Floyd. Those of you who, like me, want to keep the focus on making a better world, on ensuring that those who are responsible for the wrongful taking of life are held responsible for those actions, we must stand together today by staying home so that we can separate ourselves from those who seek to destroy. Let's work together to create a better future. Thank you.
Thank you.